There's a book often praised for being akin to an exploration. Reading it feels like uncovering every tiny centimeter of space within your soul. The deeper you go, the darker it becomes, until you hear the thunder resounding in the silence. Hi there, friends. Welcome back to Becoming Better, the channel dedicated to sharing knowledge and helping you grow through amazing books. This week, I'm excited to introduce you to a brilliant and approachable psychotherapy book titled Maybe You Should Talk to Someone. Released in 2019, this book made waves, appearing on all major bestseller lists immediately after publication. It secured a spot among the top 10 best-selling books of the year on Amazon in the US and is recommended annually by Harvard Business School as a must-read. It has also been translated into over 40 languages worldwide. I'll leave more details about the book in the video description. The author, Lori Gottlieb, is a senior psychotherapist and an accomplished writer. After graduating college, she began her career as a Hollywood screenwriter, contributing to the legendary series Friends and other notable productions. Eventually, she shifted her focus, earned a spot in medical school, and later pursued a master's degree in clinical psychology, becoming a professional therapist. Because Lori is both a talented writer and a skilled therapist, her book captivates readers with compelling storytelling. In this memoir, she shares profound insights into human vulnerability and authenticity through the stories of her patients. Within the confined walls of her therapy room, people reveal their rawest, most fragile selves. The book features 5 stories, 4 about her patients and 1 deeply personal account of Lori's own journey towards psychological healing. Surprisingly, even a seasoned therapist sometimes needs someone to confide in. This revelation reminds us that we, too, should seek someone trustworthy to talk to, perhaps even now. If you find no one to turn to, remember that you always have yourself, and this book can serve as a trusted companion, guiding you toward the best healing methods for your own growth. As the great psychologist Carl Jung once said, "Only those who dare to confront their souls will awaken." Ultimately, the person who can heal your wounds will always be you. For questions throughout life. The Buddha taught that life, along with the entire journey of birth and death, is inherently filled with suffering. All beings in this world are bound by the inevitability of pain, a truth that psychologist and author Lori Gottlieb likens to inner demons residing within each of us. These demons, whether large or small, new or old, quiet or loud, may shift and change over time, yet at their core human struggles can be distilled into 4 central themes: loneliness, death, restricted freedom, and meaninglessness. In psychology, these are known as the 4 ultimate questions of life, and they form the foundation of our existence. Loneliness arises from the inherent isolation that each individual must face at some point. Though no one is truly an island, there are times when everyone feels the weight of isolation, and when such feelings persist, they can lead to despair, paranoia, or even hallucinations. Even in the midst of bustling crowds or lively streets, loneliness can make one feel profoundly empty, disconnected from any form of comfort or support. Death, as the inevitable endpoint of life, instills fear not just because of the cessation it represents but also because of what it entails: loss of loved ones, achievements, possessions, and the dreams that define us. Restricted freedom emerges as we grow, transitioning from the limitless possibilities of childhood into a world increasingly defined by societal norms, rigid rules, and unyielding expectations. This narrowing of choices, compounded by inner conflicts and unaddressed truths, often distances us from our authentic selves, leaving us trapped and yearning for genuine freedom. Finally, the search for meaning defines the essence of human existence. As psychologist Viktor Frankl posited, our deepest motivation is not the pursuit of happiness but the quest for purpose. When one begins to doubt their life's meaning or fails to find a sense of purpose, they can spiral into despair and emotional collapse. These 4 themes, loneliness, death, restricted freedom, and meaninglessness, represent both the source of suffering and the key to transcending it. They challenge us to spend a lifetime seeking answers, a process that brings not only pain but also the opportunity for liberation and growth. On this journey, we must learn to grow while simultaneously finding ways to heal ourselves, with psychotherapy offering one avenue for reconciliation and understanding. Irvin D. Yalom described psychotherapy as an existential experience of self-discovery, enabling individuals to confront life's ultimate questions, create meaningful change, and become better versions of themselves. While it may not solve all life's complexities, psychotherapy can offer a fresh perspective, helping us to see the world in new ways and uncover solutions that ease life's burdens. It is through this lens that we will explore stories tied to these themes, discovering how the wounds of adulthood can be healed and how hope can be rekindled through the process of self-recovery. Letting go of the mask makes one feel lonely. John is a handsome and successful Hollywood producer who has won the prestigious Emmy Awards multiple times, one of the most distinguished honors in American television. Moreover, he has a beautiful wife and 2 lively daughters, which to the outside world, paints the picture of a man who has triumphed in life. However, the reality of his situation was far from this perception. Recently, John has been under tremendous pressure, struggling with sleepless nights, a strained marital relationship and the disconnection with his children. His work demands were rising while his colleagues' performance was declining, leading him to feel trapped. Dr. Lori, his therapist, did not like John much from the very beginning. She found him arrogant, rude, and dismissive, often treating his colleagues, including Lori herself, with condescension and insults. During the first therapy session, John handed Lori a stack of cash instead of a check, saying, "You seem like my mistress, or more accurately, a call girl. I hope you're not offended, but if I wanted to hide a beautiful woman in my house, you wouldn't be the type I'd choose." His words insulted Lori, implying that she wasn't attractive enough. Despite his rude behavior, Lori managed to suppress her resentment through mindfulness, focusing on compassion as a way to help progress in their therapy. As the sessions continued, Lori discovered that John's outward demeanor was merely a mask, one that concealed profound feelings of loneliness and emotional withdrawal. John wore this mask as a shield to hide his pain and isolation. When Lori noticed John's love for his dog Rosie, she commented on it, stating that she could see his affection. This surprised John, who blushed, denied it, and acted embarrassed as if he were a schoolboy hiding his feelings for a girl. Despite his initial denial, his eyes betrayed a deep sadness, marking a turning point in the therapeutic process. John's emotional numbness and isolation stemmed from years of trauma and unresolved feelings. After experiencing overwhelming grief and negative emotions, he chose to numb himself as a defense mechanism. With Lori's patient guidance, John eventually summoned the courage to confront his pain. He admitted that he could never forgive himself because, deep in his heart, he believed he had caused the death of his son, Jeppy. During a ride, John kept replaying the moment of his son's death, blaming himself. "If I hadn't been distracted by a phone call, the accident might not have happened. If it hadn't, Jeppy would still be alive and my wife wouldn't be in such a state of depression." After the accident, his wife blamed him, crying and yelling at him in the emergency room. Although John wanted to grieve with her, his responsibility to his youngest daughter kept him from breaking down. Humans must release their suppressed emotions in order to heal. Crying is one way to release these pent-up feelings, including grief, regret, and guilt. However, John didn't cry. His refusal to express his pain led to the emotions building up within him, forming an emotional void that could devour him. He went about his life as though nothing had happened, attending work, parties, and watching football. His wife labeled him as cold and cruel, but no one knew the internal torment he faced. John felt his heart bleeding every day, and by putting on this emotional mask, he cut himself off from connection, becoming lonelier and more isolated. In the therapy session with Lori, John finally allowed himself to break down. He cried out all his pent-up pain and guilt, crying furiously, laughing, shouting, and releasing years of bottled emotion. Lori remained silent but observant, understanding that this moment was a significant battle within John's soul. His emotional release allowed him to face his pain for the first time, and ultimately this helped him reconnect with his inner self. After he dried his tears, he sheepishly apologized to Lori. She assured him that he wasn't broken but had been reborn through this emotional release. His crying had brought him peace, allowing him to take off his mask and confront his loneliness. After this breakthrough, John began to embrace the simple joys of life again, spending time with his family and his beloved dog Rosie. He even wrote an outstanding script that won another Emmy, regained friendships with his colleagues, and began to open his heart to others. The pain of losing Jeppy became no longer a wall that divided him from his wife but a shared bond that brought them closer together. They watched old videos of their son, and while tears fell from their eyes, they shared smiles. realizing that healing could come through shared memory and love. John's story reflects the emotional battles many face, battling masks and loneliness. Just like John, many of us wear protective emotional armor to guard our fragile hearts and avoid the risk of falling apart. But withdrawing from the world isolates us and creates a life of loneliness, a self-imposed prison. It's important to remind ourselves that we've tried hard enough, and we should allow ourselves to drop the masks we wear, to open up and release our true feelings. Removing these emotional barriers allows light and warmth to enter our hearts, breaking through isolation and connecting us with love and healing. The story of John serves as a reminder that while hiding behind masks and isolation can protect us, they can also trap us. True freedom comes from confronting the emotions buried within, releasing pain, and allowing ourselves to reconnect with the world, our families, and ourselves. Death is not the end. The second story is about Julie, a 33-year-old university lecturer who was at the pinnacle of happiness. She had just returned from her honeymoon with her husband, received her new title as a professor, and was expecting her first child. However, dark clouds soon appeared as she was diagnosed with breast cancer. Julie turned to Dr. Lori for support to help her navigate this incredibly difficult time and face the unimaginable pain. Instead of offering empty words of comfort, Lori worked with her on practical solutions, such as whether to wear a wig or a headscarf after chemotherapy, strategies for managing marriage conflicts, how to cope with family issues, and how to handle her career. After months of dedicated treatment, Julie received the joyful news that her cancer cells had been eliminated. To celebrate this, she and her husband rode a hot air balloon together, hand in hand, watching the sunset from thousands of feet in the air. However, 6 months later, Julie returned to the clinic with devastating news. She had been diagnosed with another type of cancer. Her life felt like a roller coaster with constant ups and downs, never finding stability. Through her experiences with Julie, Dr. Lori felt as if she had faced a life and death struggle herself, witnessing the fragility of fate and the uncertainties of life. Many times, Lori broke down in tears and felt despair. So how can we prevent being controlled by fate? After much reflection, Lori found her answer. Life is uncertain, and the only way to cope with this uncertainty is to live in the present. Indeed, the past is behind us and the future is yet to come. The only thing we can truly control is each moment in the here and now. Therefore, we should not drown ourselves in the past or fear the future, but instead walk through life with care and appreciation. Julie herself faced extreme challenges as fate seemed to throw wave after wave of difficulty her way. Her life was a constant adventure, full of beauty and challenges. She even tried working as a supermarket cashier because she believed it was a practical job that allowed her to connect with and directly help people. She also organized a reading club to support others preparing for college entrance exams, participated in online mentoring, and planned a personal memorial service to say goodbye to the world on her own terms. Most importantly, she helped her husband prepare his professional legacy, allowing him to move on successfully after her passing. A Disney movie once had a line that resonated deeply. "I always thought the opposite of love was not loving, but now I understand that the opposite of love is forgetting." Julie learned this lesson well. Death is not the end but a journey filled with lessons and memories. Julie left beautiful memories for those she loved. Her life's journey did not stop at the end of her life. Death was not a period but a lesson. The story of Julie illustrates a universal truth. Life is an ongoing journey, constantly moving toward death, and nothing is certain. Many believe that the future is endless and predictable, yet the reality is far from this. Rather than live in fear, it is better to let go of our attachments, make choices that bring meaning, and live a life without regret, whether it ends in departure or in our final moments. The story serves as a reminder that death is not a full stop. It is simply part of the journey, a chance for us to learn, reflect, and live. Life is uncertain, but we can find peace by focusing on the present, embracing each moment, and making choices that fulfill our hearts. You are truly my own personal hell. Rita, 69 years old, appears much younger than her actual age, but she walks slowly and has no energy, typical symptoms of depression. Rita's life has been a series of failures. As a child, she lived a miserable life with her parents. In an attempt to escape, she dropped out of school and rushed into marriage. Initially, she was very happy, But it wasn't long before her first husband showed signs of alcohol addiction and violence. Although she wanted to leave him, she lacked education or skills, and so she stayed, convincing herself that at least this would provide her children with food and a warm home with access to good education and even a swimming pool. However, things only got worse. 4 of her children ended up with devastating outcomes. One became addicted to drugs, another was imprisoned, another committed suicide, and the last one suffered ongoing suffering. It was at this point that Rita stopped lying to herself and decided to divorce her first husband. Yet she went on to experience 2 more failed marriages. Throughout her life, Rita worked jobs she disliked, and her children remained indifferent and distant. She often secluded herself in her home, spying on neighbors across the street with feelings of envy and longing, feelings of happiness that she had never experienced herself. Not long ago, Rita met a man who made her heart flutter, but before she could express her feelings, the man chose a younger woman instead. This deepened her insecurities. Seeking relief, she went to Dr. Lori for therapy, fearing that if her life didn't change, she would contemplate suicide. During the therapy, whenever she cried, she refused to use the fresh tissues Dr. Lori would offer. Instead, she would wipe her tears with the old, damp tissues already in her hand. This strange behavior stemmed from a deep-rooted belief. She felt that she didn't deserve happiness, even something as small as a clean tissue. Dr. Lori explained that this was a sign of a psychological condition called fear of happiness. People with this fear tend to view life through a lens of flaws, feeling rejected, abandoned, and betrayed. This fear often arises from deep emotional wounds, such as traumatic childhood experiences or loss, and prevents them from allowing happiness into their lives. In Rita's case, her fear stemmed from guilt. She blamed herself for being a bad mother who failed to protect her children from abuse and suffering, particularly during her first marriage. She would isolate herself during her husband's violent outbursts, often drinking heavily to cope with the pain. Rita harbored resentment toward her children for their happy lives that were filled with stability, family bonds, and opportunities she had never known. As a result, she failed to support them during their times of suffering, driven by this buried jealousy. Similarly, Charlotte, a 25-year-old with a promising career in finance, beautiful fashion sense, and plenty of admirers, also struggled with self-destructive habits. Charlotte's issues arose from her relationship with her emotionally absent father and the presence of unresolved childhood trauma. Her relationships mirrored her father's patterns, leading her to replicate cycles of pain by choosing partners similar to her father. Self-destructive relationships, addiction, and unhappiness. This is known as repeating patterns to cope with unresolved trauma. Dr. Lori explained to Charlotte 2 paths. One led to continuing the cycle of self-destruction by dwelling on the pain of the past, and the other involved taking responsibility as an adult, facing the present, and building a meaningful future. Ultimately, Charlotte chose the latter path, embracing change and freedom. Though her journey was filled with setbacks, she eventually broke free from the chains of her childhood pain and embraced freedom and healing. The key takeaway is that freedom and healing begin when you courageously confront your past and accept your pain. Similarly, Dr. Lori herself faced a personal journey of struggle. After being betrayed by her fiancé, who abandoned her and rejected the idea of living with her children, she entered a period of reflection. Initially angry and resentful, she entered therapy under Dr. Wendel's guidance, discovering that her feelings of negativity stemmed not just from heartbreak but from her fear of the uncertainty of her future and feelings of purposelessness. Lori had always sought meaning in her life. After graduating from college, she began a successful career as a screenwriter, writing meaningful stories. However, her experiences in a medical TV show inspired her to explore the medical profession but led her to disappointment when she discovered modern hospitals focused on strict time schedules and cold, data-driven systems rather than empathetic patient care. Disheartened, she left medical school and chose to focus on psychological research and therapy instead. Despite struggling with writer's block and other challenges, Dr. Lori eventually began work on her book Maybe You Should Talk to Someone. At one point, she questioned whether her writing was meaningful or just another exercise of futility. She realized that her previous writing felt as empty as an email from her ex-fiancé, one she felt was devoid of significance. She chose to confront this insecurity by canceling her publishing contract and focusing on writing what truly mattered to her. This act of self-reflection and courage revitalized her passion, giving her creative freedom and renewed purpose. This transformation not only saved her own life but also inspired millions of others who have read her book. Lori's journey illustrates that finding true meaning comes from authenticity, courage, and the willingness to confront fear, pain, and insecurity head-on. The process of rediscovery can lead you out of darkness and into a brighter, freer future. Maybe you should talk to someone. After reading this book, everyone will likely feel that life is not easy. It can be lonely, death can take away freedom, and finding meaning can seem unattainable. We are all facing numerous challenges. We crave connection and sharing, yet fear being hurt. We are full of hope but simultaneously afraid of the uncertainty of the future. We know we should let go of the past, yet we struggle to confront its wounds. Perhaps now is the time to find someone to talk to. This book offers stories that provide philosophy, perspectives, and evidence through narratives. These stories can awaken faith and inspire self-discovery. This book falls into the second category. If you feel drawn to read this book, it likely means you are facing emotional struggles. It would be wonderful to find someone to confide in, but if you can't find the right person, that's okay. What you truly need is courage. Don't lose hope if there is no one suitable to talk to. You still have what the author Lori shares through this book and many other helpful resources. You can also find support in motivational videos that spread positive messages, similar to what Becoming Better does. Most importantly, you already have the light and strength within yourself. All of this comes down to taking a single step or thought. Be brave. Make the choice to move forward and choose to love yourself. I hope that both you and I can have the courage to unlock the door, free ourselves from the burdens of the past, and step into the future with lightness, little by little, step by step. This journey can help us discover our self-worth, find meaning, and live freely and consciously in the present. Thank you for listening. If you find this video helpful, please share it with anyone who might need it. Give it a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay updated with my latest videos. Once again, thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.